Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to show you how to change a water pump on a 5.3 on this 2015 Chevrolet Tahoe. I'm sorry I couldn't get it in the video. I'm cooling it down with this big fan, which brings me to my point. You want to make sure you do this job when it's cold. Not when it's cold outside, but when the engine's cold. You don't want to get burned or injured trying to repair your vehicle. Alright, first things first, let's remove the air box. These things right here, they push up from the bottom. Pop right off. Then you got two 8mm. Take both them out. They should slide right on out. All right, so on this engine, here's our water pump right here. This is our water pump housing. Sometimes the seals on the back of the water pump housing will be leaking. On this one, it's actually just the water pump itself, so I don't have to change the whole assembly. It's not much more of a job. I know a lot of people complain about having to change the housing because you got to take the alternator bracket and stuff loose, but really, I can do that job in less than an hour. So here's the water pump. That's the part we're going to be changing. All right, so let's go ahead and go to our tensioner. This is our tensioner. That's how the belt stays on. Just gonna do, not with a 3/8, it's a 1/2 inch. All right, from there, we're just gonna go ahead and take our water pump loose. There's 6 water pump bolts. They're all 10mm. Don't wanna tighten it. Move my belt out of the way so it don't get soaking wet. All right, they'll all line up with the holes. I got one more to loosen right now, but I'm gonna go ahead and take my magnet and pull them all out. Of course, I had to drop one. That's why we got magnets, so retrieve our bolts. All right, gonna go ahead and take our last one out. Let's go ahead and pull the water pump. Just got to ease it out on both sides, and it'll come right on out. Just like that. All right, from there we got the metal gasket that's on here. Always like metal gaskets. A lot less cleanup on there. All right, from there I'm gonna take a small piece of coker's cloth. I'm gonna take it, just get all my excess off of this water pump housing where it's gonna be bolted up. And just make sure there ain't no high spots left from that metal gasket. That metal gasket does have something on there that can stick to it. Alright, just gonna spray that down with a little cleaner. Make sure there ain't any high spots on there. Nothing that I left loose or left on there. Alright, so now it's time to install the new water pump. So it comes with the new gasket, new metal gasket. If you look at the water pump right here at the top, you have two small holes, or a bolt hole and a little dowel pin hole. On the motor, you got a dowel pin and the bolt hole. So what you're going to want to do is just make sure that you line that part up with the top. What I do is I take my bolt, I stick it through the one right next to the dowel pin, and then I just come in straight and line that up. Just like that. Once my one bolt started and my dowel pin's in place, you can go ahead and start all the rest of the bolts. Make sure you start them all before you tighten anything down. You always want to make sure every bolt is started before you tighten any bolt down. If not, they won't line up. It'll be a nightmare. It's always just easier that way. And that's not just with this water pump, that's with everything. If there's multiple bolts, make sure you start them all before tightening anything. And if you're working with somebody else, make sure you get your bolt started first. An old tech taught me that. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten them all the way down by hand, and then I'm gonna torque them. All right, so the torque spec on this water pump is 89 inch-pounds. Go ahead and once more for good measure. All right, from there, all we gotta do is install our belt. Back around our tell you, this is a much better belt than that stupid stretchy belt that they got now. That stretchy belt is not my favorite thing in the world to change. I've changed a bunch of them. I built myself a tool that works better now than the one that they got. Used screwdrivers forever, and then they came out with a tool that looked like a piece of rope that sucked, and then they came out with a metal tool that worked okay, so I modified it and I got one that works better now. But anyway, that's beside the point. So we got our belt back on. Now let's go ahead and put our air duct back on. When you're putting your air box back on, there's a part on the air box right here, this little opening. It goes right here on this. Make sure you get that in. If not, it will cause a vibration when you're driving. Let's tighten that up. Our hoses back in place. Now, on these up here, when you put them on, you want to make sure they click, and then you want to pull on them. You want them to come off for you, not while you're driving down the road. So make sure you put them on and pull on them good. And you want them to snap. All right, from here, we're going to pressure test our system, make sure we don't have no leaks. Now, you don't have to have a fancy pressure tester like this. You can get a cheap pump pressure tester that'll work just as good. I'm just old, don't like to pump things anymore. My elbows hurt. My elbows hurt now for some reason. So I got this air one that works pretty good. Off, put my air up. Oh, I forgot. My air gauge uses a different fitting. All right, so my gauge held fine. Good air pressure. Didn't have any leak. Let it sit for about 5 minutes with the system sealed. Seems to be holding. Now all we gotta do is top it off and send her on her way. And clean up the old parts, because I'm just going to leave the gasket under the customer's car, I guess. All right, so I have a vac fill system for the coolant. Now, if you don't have a vac fill system, you don't have to have one. You can fill it up, crank the car, let it get hot, let it cool off, top it back off. It'll burp itself. But if you have a vac fill system, it really is good for the vehicle. It vacuums all the air out and fills the system with coolant, so you don't have to guess whether the system's full or not. Sometimes the heater core can be a little higher and it'll cause problems where you don't have heat because it's got an air pocket in the heater core. That will also work itself out. It might just take a little longer, but you don't have to have a vac fill. It's just really good. They're not that expensive. If you do this job more than once or twice, you might want to get one, but you don't have to have it. Other than that, make sure you clean off the old coolant. I've already washed out the bottom of the system, and then go test drive it. Come back, let it sit, make sure that you don't have a leak. And you're done. So these are all the tools that I use to do the job. You might not need double the tools like the 3/8 ratchet and the 3/8 electric ratchet. It just makes it easier for me. I will put all these tools in the description just in case you want to make it easier for you. You can go ahead and get them. I don't have the vac fill system over here because it's a little bit bigger. Also, I'll put the parts in there. If you'd like to look in the description for the parts, you go ahead and get the right part for the job. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And as always, if you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe. Thanks again for watching. Now, I'm not the kind of guy that's going to ask you to like my video or subscribe to my channel. I'm the kind of guy that's going to beg you to do it. Click one of these other videos. Subscribe to my channel. It's on one of these sides. Do them both. Do them all. Please.